Weekdays of Bernie segment tonight is bring in the purveyor, BernardGoldberg.com, and joins us from Miami. So before the interview with the president, you said on this program that these Super Bowl chats don't usually amount to much. Was this one different?
I think what I said, at least last week, in fact, I know what I said last week, was that there's one day of the year that we don't need to hear from politicians, and that's Super Bowl Sunday. The day before, the day after, fine. But for me and for many others, we don't want to hear from politicians on that day. Okay, that's my opinion. On the bigger point regarding your interview, specifically the Putin killer exchange, which you don't think is all that important. Here's what is important: the conservative reaction to that statement. Imagine if last Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, you were interviewing President Obama, and you said, "Do you respect Putin?" And he said, "Yeah." And you said, "You know, he's a killer." And he rolled his eyes and said, "Yeah, well, there are a lot of killers, you know. You think we're so innocent?" The people watching us tonight, those people would be outraged. They'd accuse him of treason. They would never, ever, ever forgive him. Where's the conservative outrage over this statement?
Well, look at Mitch McConnell and Rubio in Florida, in your state. There were a lot of Republicans that came out against that.
They came out mildly against it. And I'm talking about the people who watch conservative television.
But you're always talking about the zealots. You're always you're bringing the zealots more prominence. Look, you've heard some of the letters that have been written about I had a letter yesterday from a lady who goes, "Well, we hated the interview because you only should ask questions that put Donald Trump in a good light." I mean, zealots are zealots.
Where were the... I know, that was... You know what? We ought to do a segment someday on the role of the media, because I think a lot of the people watching don't have a clue as to what the media is.
They don't think it's a necessary thing in the USA.
They think that you should be a cheerleader for people that they like. But listen,
but that's a small percentage, though, Bernie.
I don't know about that.
No, it's not.
And I think that the interpretation that you came up with, that, you know, he has to deal with bad people. We all know presidents have to deal with bad people. Here's my question, Bill. Donald Trump has told us on more than one occasion how smart he is. Why didn't he say, Bill, you know what? I have to deal with people who don't necessarily win humanitarian awards, okay? FDR had to deal with Stalin. Let's leave it at that, Bill, okay? Next question. He didn't say that. He left it to you to give a generous interpretation of what he actually meant.
An accurate interpretation. But his point on the Putin business was that we don't have the right to make judgments, the American government, because we've done bad stuff too. Now, was that a mistake?
You know,
I wouldn't have said it. I wouldn't have said that, because Putin is so much worse than any American president. And I said that to him. I said, we don't have individual politicians that are killers. We don't have that. And you know, he glanced up. But the bottom line is, he wants a deal with Putin. He wants this deal.
No, I get that. That makes sense. That makes sense. But you know what I would have said, and I'm not second-guessing. I told you I don't like second-guessing people who do big, important interviews. What I would have said is, Mr. President, I know you have to deal with bad people. I know you have to deal with bad people. But why didn't you say, Mr. President, it's not, I don't deal with Mother Teresa all the time. I have to deal with bad people.
I mean, look, in the heat of the moment, nobody knows my questions. You say what you say.
But very briefly, you know the people who would have come up with the interpretation of, well, he was only saying that he has to deal with bad... Hardcore progressives who don't think much of America. That's the way they talk. That's not the way any president, including President Trump, should talk.
They didn't stick up for Trump. That's an interesting point. Because the progressive far left, which says, yeah, America's the worst. America's the biggest villain. When Trump said that, they didn't go, yes, President Trump. No, they were indignant as well.
I'll tell you why in 5 seconds. Because even if he says something they agree with, they'll disagree with it.
Yeah, they'll hate him anyway. It doesn't matter.
Even if he comes up with a cure for cancer, they'll find fault with him.
Right.
So now that's the answer they would have given The one he gave is the one the hardcore left would have given, and that should make all of us, including the Trump supporters watching,
but there
that should make all of
I'm
us
putting
feel
an
uncomfortable.
asterisk next to it because I know what the strategy is. Now, final question. Okay, now, Putin may be coming after me, Goldberg, and it's your fault because you encouraged me to do these things. You know, do you feel if I disappear, you know, I can't even eat any food now?
Well, no, I have a solution.
Okay.
Your very fine executive producer, David Tabakoff, needs to be your food tester and drink tester. He needs to test the food and beverages before they go near your lips.
See, they have these little umbrellas where they go, and a little dart comes out at you or something. So now when it rains, I can't go outside. Bernie Goldberg, everybody.